What's going on, pen friends? Got a lot of free time on my hands and just way too much ink on my fingers today. And today I'm going to be using that free time to talk about that ink, specifically Hongdian Black. But first, Hongdian is a Chinese company, and you don't need to be afraid of how to pronounce this name. It's super easy. You already know how Hong is pronounced if you've ever heard of Hong Kong. There's an H. Hong. The H is pronounced Hongdian. The second part trips up more people than the first, but that part's easy too. You already know from Hong that the O makes the ah sound. So it's not Hongdian, because this is an A. It's not Celine's lost brother, Hongdian. And you're also on the internet, so you can just Google how to pronounce Hongdian, and until the AI slops over the entire internet, you'll get the correct answer, Hongdian. And just to be clear, all of that is a joke. I'm not a pronunciologist. I just think it's silly how many weird ways people are pronouncing brands when you can just Google it. Chinese languages are hard, and I don't speak any of them. But I can fairly confidently say it's Hongdian. Not Ongdian, not Hongdian, Hongdian. Okay, now that I've bored half of you with my pronunciation talk and offended the other half, here's the ink. Hongdian borrows from other manufacturers' designs and sometimes puts their own spin on things. And Hongdian Black looks so close to Sailor Black. I was briefly convinced that they replicated that formula, but they didn't. They also didn't replicate their packaging. Although Hongdian's packaging looks a lot more like this now. But Hongdian does offer an enormous variety of sizes, so you can still buy this on Aliexpress. But last year, 2025, Hongdian released 600 million inks into the Western market, and they are all packaged like this in 60 milliliter bottles with this unified packaging design, which is actually pretty nice. So you'll now have the easiest time finding this kind of bottle for around $10. You can only really find Hongdian's inks on Amazon, at least in the US, from what I've seen. Amazon or Aliexpress, which is pretty limited, and a lot of people aren't comfortable shopping on Amazon or Aliexpress anymore, so keep that in mind. Anyway, that's just packaging in an ink bottle. Bottles are nice, but they're just glass containers. What's important is the ink inside. So how is that ink inside? Well, I had a horrible experience with Hongdian Purplish Red, but I gave their black ink a try, and I'm going to show you how it went. So here are my writing samples. Here is Tomoe River. Here is Graphilo. Here is Clairefontaine. And here is B7 paper, which is not B7 size. That's the name of the paper. It's a stupid name, but it's a great paper, so I'm going to use it. Now, first things first, I've had a much better experience with Hongdian Black than I did with their Purplish Red. A moment ago, I mentioned that I thought that it was a dupe of Sailor Black. So here is Sailor Black and Hongdian Black side by side. When writing with them, they feel and look nearly identical. However, Hongdian Black does have more of a purple undertone than Sailor Black does. It isn't noticeable unless you get it wet or in swatches. When you write with it, they look pretty much the same. And they perform pretty much the same, which is a great thing. Hongdian Black is a super dark black. It's not the darkest black, but it's noticeably dark. It takes not very long to dry at all. On anything but Graphilo, it was dry by 30 seconds. Even B7 paper, which takes forever to dry, and on Clairefontaine, it took around 15 seconds to dry. On Graphilo, it'll take just a bit over 30 seconds. But Graphilo takes forever to dry, so that's not surprising. It doesn't bleed on anything, doesn't feather on anything. It is a great performer. It flows very nicely too. It is very nicely lubricated, not to the point where it is too lubricated like some inks, but you will have no flow issues. There is some sheen. It's not a ton of sheen. On papers like Clairefontaine, you're not going to see it much or at all because Clairefontaine mutes how ink looks. But on nicer coated paper, there's a bit of a sheen. There's more of just the standard black ink sheen. It's not really a color, it's just a shine. but you'll notice it, and it's black, so it is super readable. Blacks are the standard because they're super readable. And it's pretty water resistant. It's not the most water resistant ink that I've seen, but as you can see, on every paper that I tried, you can still see the line within the splotch of wetness. You might not be able to recover everything, but you should be careful with your writing anyway. I always recommend you don't get it wet. Here's no different. So now that that's out of the way, I'm going to do a drawing sample while I go over my final thoughts. We're using a Fountain Pen Revolution Guru with one of their Ultraflex nibs. So, the fountain pen hobby has a high price barrier to entry. So on one hand, I am glad a brand like Hongdian can offer a great basic black ink for a low price. On the other hand, I'm much more comfortable giving my money to a brand like Sailor, even though it's a few dollars more. Hongdian Black is not an exact copy of Sailor Black. It's got more blue in it, and it's a bit less water resistant, but it is so close, and so close that I'm convinced that it could just be a batch-to-batch inconsistency because Hongdian isn't known for their quality control. It is a good black ink. It is well-performing, dark, saturated, easy to clean, smooth to write with. There's really no downsides, except that Hongdian has a history of copying other brands' work and then selling things for much cheaper. You have to decide how you feel about that. If you are really on a budget, this is a great option. Just be prepared for trouble because you're not paying for quality control. Anyway, that's Hongdian Black. Hope you liked the video. If you did, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment down below telling me what you liked. If you've ever tried Hongdian Black and you have a different opinion, let me know what you think about it. Feel free to smash the bell icon, subscribe, all that YouTube junk. I will leave links to where to buy this in the description, and in that description you will also find a link to my Instagram where you can see some of my doodles with less of my talking, if you like my art but you don't like my opinions. Anyway, that's all for Hongdian Black. I hope you had the best day. Goodbye.